Content warning. This show includes mention of suicidal ideation, suicidal action, and self-injurious behaviors. Please take care of yourself and skip this episode if needed.
This week on Erotic Awakening, forced praised kink and RITL.
Welcome to Erotic Awakening, an exploration of all things erotic. If you are offended by adult topics or prohibited by law, we recommend you stop listening right now.
We want to thank our latest patron supporter,
Kyle.
Thank you so much. Your support keeps us going.
Head over to patreon.com/erotic awakening today and get your bonus content and support the show.
Hey, Dawn.
Hi, Dan.
Today on the podcast, we have a wonderful interview about a kink that I knew nothing about, but now I know about it. Forced praise, which seems like the opposite of a kink, but we'll get more into that in just a moment.
Absolutely. We have Doc Bubbles and Kit Kat Ann telling us about how this is a kink for them.
But before we get into that, I do want to mention really quickly, we had a podcast listener reach out not long ago, and they said they were digging reading the Polyamory Toolkit, or maybe they listened to it. You can get it either way. And it sounds like one of us is a 12-stepper, which it would be me. And they thought it was really cool to find out that even though if you're going to an event, that people who are consider themselves sober or drug-free are part of that situation as well. Meaning, so let me back up a little bit. A lot of leather events take place in bars. A lot of munches take place in bars. Occasionally, events we go to right outside the dungeon, and these are major hotel events, and it's rare, but occasionally they also have bars right outside the dungeon, which I think is not the wisest situation, but I'm not in charge of those events. So it is great to hear that there are not just people that are in recovery, whether it's alcoholism or drug addiction or anything else, that they can not only appear there and see supportive people there, but also there is a group called RITL.
RITL.org for anyone interested.
Do you remember what RITL stands for?
Recovery in the Lifestyle.
That's right.
So, and some people, when they hear that we've been part of RITL, we've actually run meetings and stuff before at a couple of events for these, and ran behind a Columbus, Ohio, what would you call that? It's not a bookstore. It's not a leather store.
It's like a dirty bookstore that also has toys.
Yeah. And they had a meeting space in the back. So we ran a couple of RITL meetings there. But people would ask us, they're like, recovery in the lifestyle. Are you trying to recover from the lifestyle? And it's like, no, we're in recovery and in the lifestyle, which means when we go to these meetings, we can talk about polyamory. We can talk about kink. We can talk about how our addiction affects people in our life, regardless of what our dynamics are, things like that. So it's actually a really open and free feeling meeting compared to some where the meetings are held in churches and things like that.
I'm not going to throw any shade
No.
on AA or NA and any of that kind of jazz, but being allowed to go to meetings that everybody there is lifestyle familiar. So if you're having challenges, with your slave isn't getting along with your lover, then you don't have to try and stumble through some made up words. You can be very clear on saying, oh, blah, 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 because these people understand what you're there for as well.
Absolutely. So we highly recommend RITL, Recovery in the Lifestyle. And I got looking at their website. They also have online meetings, and they also have a Discord, and you get vetted before getting into the Discord meetings.
Everybody's got a Discord nowadays.
Absolutely. Right? Absolutely. So let's listen to Doc Bubbles and Kit Kat Ann on Forced Praise.
So Dawn, you and I have had this podcast going for over 15 years.
16 and a half.
And we have come across every single kink in the entire world at this point, and we've done every podcast possible, right?
Of course we have.
Why
we're still running, yes.
There is a kink out there that I am totally unfamiliar with called forced praise. Do you know anything about it?
Forced praise? It terrifies me.
Oh, okay. Well, fortunately for us today on the podcast, we have Dr. Bubbles and Kit Kat. Or do you prefer judge Kit Kat.
No, Kit Kat, and cat. Those are all three acceptable.
Okay.
And we'll understand why that came up in just a moment. But you guys do this forced praised kink, and is it a power exchange thing? Is it a kink? What exactly are we talking about?
Well, yes, actually. So forced praise sounds fluffy because everybody hears the praise part and forgets about the forced part. But one of the things that Kat and I observed is that a lot of people in the kink world really shy away from compliments or getting praised.
Being myself.
And it almost felt like they felt a strong discomfort when we saw that. So we dove into why that happened.
It can be used both as a play style in a scene. It can also be used in an authority transfer dynamic. It's really kind of how you want to play with it and how well you know your partner and what they want out of it. Forced praise came from the fact that I used to be suicidal. I had a lot of mental health issues. I was a very unhealthy person mentally. I got to the point where I had no friends and my family had kicked me out. And I realized at some point I'm sorry, I hope this is okay. I don't know if you need to put in a warning. At some point I realized that I was either going to kill myself or I needed to get over it and change. One of the two. And I was like, my mother was very suicidal when I was a kid, so killing myself was out. So I guess I have to change. And that when I started going to therapy, one of the things they tell you is to lean on the people in your life to help you change neurological behaviors, because sometimes you get into a downward spiral, and it's kind of like if you have a broken arm, you can't fix it yourself, or if you break your femur, your thigh muscles are so strong that they will make it to where you cannot set it properly by yourself, and I needed help.
In fact, that was a big metaphor that we used early on, is we're resetting the bone.
Okay.
And I can't reset bones by myself. I need somebody to help hold everything in place while I do the hard, while I sit there in pain. And I tried asking my mom, I tried asking my boss, and they said, yeah, sure, I'll do it. But when it really came down to it, they weren't there for me.
To clarify, what she was asking is whenever she talked bad about themselves, she wanted somebody to stop her and be like, no, you aren't that. Could you please put that in a positive spin?
Okay.
And so what happened was I was on the phone with him. We would talk at least weekly. It got to the point where we talked daily. And of course, when you get to talking to somebody daily, you hear how they talk to themselves. And he heard me complaining about my family. He's like, well, I can do that for you. I was like, okay, you want to try it? We can try it. And sure enough, we started a protocol that whenever I would start talking bad about myself, saying I'm stupid or I'm lazy or I can't keep track of things, he would say, stop, I heard your negativity, say 3 positive things about yourself.
Okay.
And that turned out to be really, really difficult,
And
more difficult than we expected it to be.
Okay.
And when you start talking, when you're starting talking negatively about yourself, it is one of the hardest things in the world to find 3 positive things, because your brain doesn't want to give you 3 positive things. It wants to confirm its own bias.
Right.
And be like, no, we're going to stick in being horrible and shitty to ourselves. So he would have to. He would hold me on the phone. We wouldn't talk about anything else. He's like, I'm going to sit here as long as I need to sit here in silence until you can do this. And that was forced. And so that's where it came from. And it's kind of grown and expanded since then, because I wanted to know what this was and what it looked like and if anybody else did this. And so
it felt a lot like humiliation play, in forcing somebody to face something about themselves or sit in a negative emotion or uncomfortable emotion.
Yeah.
So in fact, we went to CTX Dark Side and talked to somebody who is very, very much into humiliation and degradation, and she had a good conversation and explained what was going on.
And he said, I don't know what the fuck that is, but it's not DNH. You might want to figure out a class.
So
like, that was what he said. And so I was like, okay, I guess I need to make this into a class. And if you don't mind, I have a definition, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Super.
As forced praise is the act of using an authority transfer dynamic to transmute the in-charge person's perspective upon the not-in-charge person for the express purpose of challenging the not-in-charge person's cognitive bias to create the feeling of cognitive dissonance and ultimately change the perspective of the not-in-charge person.
Okay.
a lot to unpack there.
Yeah.
So it feels more like a healing modality than a kink.
I would also like to say your partner is not your therapist. This can be a great therapeutic tactic.
Uh-huh.
It is not therapy. This is leaning on your partner to help find the things that you truly have a negative cognitive bias about, so you can work through it either with your partner or with a therapist.
And it's really important to stress this because we are going to talk about psychological terms that actually come out from psychological research, but again, not psychological experts. I might be Dr. Bubbles, but I'm a doctor the same way that someone named Sir was knighted by the Queen.
Okay.
We talk about this as, yes, it can be healing. It can also be part of play because we are dealing with some very uncomfortable emotions when we face our cognitive biases in show that is not one-to-one with reality.
Mm-hmm. It doesn't feel like degradation play, for example, as the opposite end of it, is used as a necessarily something to help you feel more healthy, per se. Where this feels like something that was born of I want you to be more healthy.
See, I don't necessarily agree with that because I do know several people that do degradation play, and they say that it makes them feel healthier because it makes them identify more with who they are.
Okay.
The end result in both cases is catharsis.
Mm-hmm. Because, and I'll tell you, the biggest difference is that when you're doing degradation and humiliation play, or D&H, the aftercare is very much, what if I am the thing that they told me I am? And that's what aftercare is for, is you tell them, no, you are not the little slut piggy that I called you. You're not, we love you, we care about you. And that aftercare for a lot of people of reaffirming that you are still within the community, that you might feel this way about yourself, but really and truly I accept you for that. That's degradation and humiliation, and that can be cathartic. And forced praise, the aftercare question becomes, what if I am not the thing that they told me I am? And so that's how they correlate together, and that's why I do consider this a type of D&H. Is because also when you're in D&H play, you have a bias about yourself, and the point is to push that bias as hard as you can until it breaks.
It's almost reductio ad absurdum, taking it to an extreme degree and giving them the freedom to sit in that extreme.
Right. So I understand it from the perspective of I'm on the phone and I've just called myself stupid and said, no, we're going to redirect that. But you're using the term play in here. So how do you use it as a playing?
That's what he's got.
That's where I come in. So as soon as I found out that this generates uncomfortable feelings, I'm like, okay, how can we weaponize
because
this?
ultimately at his heart, he is a very large sadist, especially when it comes to emotional sadomasochism or ESM.
Okay.
So what I found out is everybody has insecurities. Everybody has convinced themselves that they're not enough, or they didn't do well, or
at least about something.
Yeah. That's where the cognitive bias comes in. It is views about yourself or forms of thinking that are not one-to-one with reality. And so I found out that if you confront those biases and say, no, this is how I see you, and follow it up with very accurate observations about themselves that they acknowledge as truth, that creates cognitive dissonance, is where that uncomfortable feeling comes in. And then holding them there and being like, no, you're going to sit here until you acknowledge that this is who you are. Creates that play.
Would you tell the story about the woman?
Absolutely. When I was first trying to develop this and testing this out in the wild, we test things together, and sometimes you need to test it outside yourself.
So you don't, your theory.
Yeah, you don't have it in the bubble. There was an individual that I played with on this at SPLF, and they volunteered for this after I explained this is what we're going to do. And I sat for an hour just talking to them, exploring their mind and exploring where their insecurities lay. And I found a story from them that they're an attorney, a civil attorney, and they're very, very good. They like their job. They feel that they're good at their job. But one time in the past, she did a lot of work for a group and saved them a lot of money. And if they did not win that case, they would be out and potentially lose their livelihoods. But she never got thanked for it.
Okay.
And they felt like, did they really do a good job if they weren't thanked for it? And so at the end of it, I sat them through and gave them some light compliments of social standing and physicality, which rated lower on their critical list. And then at the very end, for the last thing, is like, I would like to go back in time and thank you for the hard work that you did, because your work made the difference in somebody's life. And that is important to call out. And they damn near cried.
Okay.
So I feel like also everybody kind of has a threshold. So at one point I went to a retreat with a whole bunch of other women. It was really fun. We all kind of got to know each other. I taught this class without him, but I taught this class there, and some people were really interested. So later, the night before we were going to leave, we were all kind of sitting in the pool. And I don't remember how we wound up doing this, but we wound up with a circle of 5 of us, maybe 6. And we would go around and compliment and give 5 compliments to each person. And by the time you're on the 5th person, you've gotten 25 compliments. Especially in this community, what happens is, because we've all, almost every kinkster I've met has had some kind of trauma or been broken in some way. So having 5 different people give you 5 different compliments about what they truly see in you really can change your life.
And
because you do feel seen, and to be seen by that many people in this community and feel loved, it's hard to take. It's hard to feel that much love and accept it.
I'm sorry. Keep talking.
Go ahead.
About you. I would like to call out that we in our community sometimes feel very alone and very isolated, even when we're part of a group. And we just got done reading Brene Brown's Atlas of the Heart, and Brene Brown said that feeling stems from not feeling seen by others as we truly are, and fitting in rather than being accepted. And so when somebody proves to you that, no, I do see you, and here is the proof that I see you, it is so jarring to be seen and be put in the spotlight, that feeling of discomfort of, oh my God, I am accepted, even though it is quote unquote positive, it is like a bright light, and you can't handle it all at once.
So at the beginning, we said we were going to talk about forced praise play, and I'm like, you know what? I find that terrifying, and I bet you that is, like you guys are saying, that is part, not just the healing part, right? There's absolute benefits to that, but also the play part, right? So I don't know that I like sensual humiliation. I like to be called a slut. I like to be called things like that. But degradation, humiliation,
I don't do that.
I don't do that. Forced praise feels like it is, right? Like you were saying, right on that edge of that. And I think that's, I literally got chills. I feel that's the terrifying part.
That's a great question, baby. I really appreciate you. Did really good asking that question.
So may I actually tell you a personal story?
Yes.
That relates to me and how it worked for me. So when I was younger, you know, you go through the whole 12, 13-year-old, you find a boy you experiment with. Well, the boy was like, I'll go down on you if you go down on me. I'm like, yeah, cool, sure. So sure enough, gave him a blowjob. He's like, that was great. And then we reversed it, and he went, what's that smell? And he went, and he tried, and he's like, I can't do this. I can't do
And that
this.
created decades of trauma.
And
I bet.
then there's also been other things that my ex-husband, who was extremely abusive, put me through. And, you know, he called me a lesbian and told me I looked like a dyke. And that, you know, if I really wanted all these things, you know, you have to dress this way or look this way. And that included sexual words about my body in the bedroom. Well, we had decided that we wanted to play with this a little bit, and I was like, don't tell me what it is, but we're going to have, you know, I don't want to know, but we're going to have it to where basically we're going to pretend you just bought me and you get to do all the fun things. So sure enough, he started with an inspection, and then he kind of beat me a little to get me in the right headspace, and then he told me to lay back on the bed and spread my pussy lips, and he wanted me to say a phrase. He wanted me to say, I have a pretty pussy that all the girls would like to lick and all the boys want to fuck. And when you do not view that part of your anatomy, because I mean everybody watches porn, and whether we want to or not, we all judge, you know, both dicks and balls and pussy, and go, oh, that one's prettier than mine, even if we don't want to admit it, we do. And one of my labias is longer than the other, and you know, just right? I've had a daughter. You know, there's things you just your body just goes downhill, and it's not as pretty as you think it would be, or you wanted it to be. It's not what you want.
Right.
So the idea of the fact that I have something pretty on me that I really do not see that way at all was hard. So at first I went, I was angry. You know, you go off with the mocking, I have a pretty pussy that all the girls want, you know, blah, 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 blah. And then I got angry. And he's like, no, do it again. I don't believe you. No, do it again. I don't believe you. Finally, he stood in between my legs while I was laying on the bed, pulled me up by my collar and say, look me in the eye and convince me. And I could not.
Like,
Because to
that
say it
was-
out loud and mean it, I had to believe it myself.
Yeah.
And I did not have the confidence or belief in my own body. And it broke my brain so hard I started seeing double, and we had to call it at that point.
Yep.
Because my brain broke, because I wanted to please him as my master and my sir, and I wanted to do the thing, and I wanted to keep the scene going. But the idea of me having to say that, I physically could not say it convincingly.
And that's why we preface, every time that we teach this class, we preface the description of, this is the class that bottoms are afraid of.
Oh, absolutely. Terrified, right? It is right on the edge of that. And I've got a lot of self-confidence right now. I mean, I hit that mode of, believing in myself and the self-confidence and the forced praise. Ooh, that's that little feeling in the pit of my belly going, crap. And I'm looking at Dan looking at me going, oh, we may have to try this.
It's fun to play with, because it really amazes me. Why in the world are we so afraid of kindness?
Yeah.
So,
Especially from kindness from people that we love. Because if it's a stranger and you give me a compliment, I can take that.
right.
It's a stranger. But if you give me a compliment, or one of my other judges this weekend was up there just saying how much they enjoyed being around me, and I had to step away from the conversation because it's really hard to hear that from people that you admire or respect.
My walls will go up, and you can almost hear the ping, ping as they bounce off. Yeah.
But that's where the force comes in, is
Yeah.
because we have defense mechanisms that
Denial,
be like,
displacement, and rationalization.
oh, this hurts, so let's stem the bleeding. And the force part comes in and say, no, you are going to sit in this, and you're going to internalize this, and we will let you go once you submit and give total compliance, and then we'll go into internalization.
So the mechanics of this class, because we're really weird people, and we believe that the difference between science
And fucking around is writing it down.
Yeah. And so not only did we write down definitions, we also have mechanics as well as safety. And so for the mechanics of this class, you have to first have an authority transfer dynamic that you trust. And it doesn't have to be a romantic partner. It can be a friend. It can be somebody that really knows you and really wants to see you grow and help with that growth.
And anytime that you play with somebody, you're giving authority over to the person. In the vanilla world, they call it a power differential.
And then once you have an authority transfer dynamic established, you want to identify the bias that you want to work, at least to begin with. Sir and I have been together for 5 years. He knows me pretty well. At this point, he can identify the bias himself and just push on the button, because we have created that dynamic. But to begin with, I suggest that the person who's going to be receiving the forced praise identify the bias themselves. Because once you identify the bias and say, I want to work on this thing, would you help me? It makes it so much easier for me to receive it and not be as resistant to it when it comes up.
And here's the thing: it can be that can be a scene in itself, because, again, Dr. Bubbles, I really like diving into that persona and putting somebody on the couch and be like, so tell me about your mother.
Yeah, and so you just run. What was the thing that you suggested? There's a website.
I'm not going to say the website because I don't know it offhand, but this is one of the meanest psychological tests that I've run into. It is called the Life Traps test. And it is a actual psychological tool that psychologists use to identify insecurities that you have in yourself. The questions itself are designed to be like, ooh, I see myself in this picture and I don't like it. And then at the end of it, it will spit out a general assessment of, like, this generally is the area of your life that you feel most insecure about.
Okay.
Like, I took the test and it says that I am a control freak. I do not like giving up control.
I bet you about 50% of the people that take that in this community.
Yes.
You know
Probably
what?
so.
More so, because some of us that follow are still control freaks.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
All right. I got 2 last questions for you.
Oh, may I finish the?
Oh, please, yes, yes,
So
yes, absolutely.
authority transfer, identify the bias. Then, of course, as we talked about, you confront that bias with forced praise. And then the last part is important to internalize the new viewpoint. It's not just important for him to tell me what it is. It's
Right.
important for him to force me to say it myself, because when you hear it yourself, it's actually a psychological trait that it will internalize and become a part of your identity, right? It's the reason like daily gratification works. It's the reason daily affirmations work, is because saying it over and over and over again and hearing it in your own voice makes it become your new truth.
Yeah.
Think the plot of Inception.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, 2 more questions. I apologize.
No, not at all. Please, it's super fascinating. But we promised you guys we wouldn't keep you here, and that's one of the questions. Is you have been acting as head judge for here at the Scissortail Leather Conference all weekend, and I have
And
no
teaching
doubt
classes.
and teaching classes as well. But as the head judge, I have no doubt people have been complimenting you all weekend. Has that been?
Not really, actually.
No.
No?
Okay.
Oh, well,
Most people do it behind your back.
Yeah. I'm sorry, what?
You have, sir.
Okay, and?
And okay, fine. Yes, Sakri. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Are they? Do you perceive that as kind of seeming with you, or is it more of just an awkward sort of thing that you try to avoid best of your ability?
Because we've been doing this for 5 years, I now, one of the results of doing forced praise is I get to accept genuine compliments from random strangers, and I take them and I go, yes, I believe you. I believe what you have to say, and I believe that that's your perspective, and I'm glad that you see that within me. Like, I've gotten to that point.
Good.
So when you say, is it hard to take? No, because I've been doing this so long, and it's built up that feeling within me that, yes, I deserve this.
Fantastic.
And it is where I want to be. And also that's the reason that strangers can give you compliments, and sometimes they stick and sometimes they don't, because they're strangers. They don't know me. And so it's not really a scene, because I'm not having to take that from somebody who knows me really well to the point where it hits. All of the shallow things that you could hit on my forced praise scale are kind of not there anymore. I can
Okay.
accept that with grace and kindness. You have to, at this point, you have to delve real deep, right? But there are people, when we do our class, I'll be like, can I borrow you? And we're going to do a scene really quickly. And I will give them genuine, honest compliments, because I try really hard to make connections before the class.
Yep.
So that way when I do the class, I can be like, hey, I know a little bit about you. Would you mind doing this with me? And I have made people cry in my class.
Right.
Because, they're open to it. They wouldn't, if they weren't open to it, they wouldn't have come to the class. And then actually hearing that, not only was I paying attention to what you had to say, I have my own insights, and this is what
Right.
they are, really affects people.
I bet.
It does come down to intent. It's the difference of spanking somebody out of playfulness versus putting them over your knee and actually intending to do a spanking scene. One is just you're going through life and you're a hand is incidentally coming into contact with a butt, versus we're going to do a spanking scene.
Right.
Yeah.
Did that answer your question?
That did, absolutely. Second question, very personal question. Do you have a pretty pussy?
I do now.
Excellent.
I believe I do.
Excellent, fantastic. We see you guys, as we travel around presenting, we see you guys traveling around presenting. Where can people find out more about you and where you'll be and where they might get to this class?
Oh, well, actually, this year for 2025, we've chosen to scale down our teaching. We're out here at Scissortail because they very kindly reached out to us and asked us, and we're sucker for somebody asking us.
Absolutely.
But I believe the only other place that we've actually submitted to teach is Beyond Vanilla, and
Okay.
we're going to hear back from them and when they come back.
If people have questions, is there some way they can reach out?
Feel free. We have Fetlife, so I'm going to tell you, I do not do social media. Sir takes care of all of our social media, so feel free to reach
Social
out, and he
media
will
is
get back
not
to you.
healthy for her.
It's not healthy for anyone, but please go on.
And also, I will say, because he is also the director of SOD, which is an education.
Oh, let's see if I can roll it off. It is an online education initiative dedicated for teaching about power exchange and authority transfer relationships with consent and intention.
Fantastic. Thank you very
Nice.
much for taking the energy and spending some time with us here on a Sunday afternoon as they are wrapping up this event around us. It's been a great way to end the event for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you
Always
so much.
wonderful to see you.
Fabulous.
Dawn, if you would like to lavish us with praise, you can do that in person in a variety of places.
Absolutely. So we will be at MWKLA, which is Midwest Kink Leather Alliance, in Kansas City in September. And then vending at MSDB's 24th annual Bazaar called BizBaz in Minneapolis in November.
And then we'll be at Naughty Revival in Minneapolis in December.
Sounds like we're going to be in Minneapolis for a little while, or at least close to it. Keep up with all our events, book news, and discounts, and more via the Erotic Awakening newsletter.
And get your EA shout out like Michael from Hawaii.
And Logan from the USA.
Head over to eroticawakening.com and subscribe today.
Fabulous. So, indeed. All right. That's where we're going to be in 2025.
Yep.
Where are we going to be in 2026?
Surprisingly, it is already July and we don't have any 2026 bookings. That is actually a little behind the curve for us. We're normally about 6 months out.
It is, and it's because we're changing our lifestyle again.
Mhm.
We have sold the RV and the sticks and bricks and all of that, and we're going to start Airbnb-ing. And when I say we're going to be in Minneapolis, actually we're probably going to be 5 hours near Minneapolis, probably someplace warmer.
Someplace a little, yeah, a little bit warmer.
So we'll be moving around, which means we're available to move around. And I'm getting ready to start vending again. So we got that going on. I'll be vending in Kansas City. I'll be vending in Minneapolis. And we are open, podcast listeners. If you have a favorite event, it's easier for us to travel now. And we're actually looking to do some new things. Not that we aren't into redoing things that we've done, because there's some amazing events out there. But yeah, keep us in the loop for things that are going on. I'm not seeing as much advertising of events as in advertising for presenters or advertising for vendors. So I'm kind of curious as to what's still out there. What do we have?
And just to wrap this thing up, we had, and what is that name?
Larkin Scarstone.
Larkin Scarstone wrote, apparently they attended our chemical play at Kinky College last time we were there, and they have quite the nice write-up about how they applied that to their scene.
Indeed, and it seems that they had the same reaction to cinnamon toothpaste that I had. They had a different reaction with the ginger juice, but yeah, cinnamon toothpaste, painful. Painful. Yeah, so you wouldn't think so. I use that to brush my teeth each day, but other regions aren't so happy with it. Cool. And we have tentacles. No food on boobs. You know what? Your birthday is coming up.
Hey,
you need some food on boobs.
Exactly.
So a couple of days to your birthday, let's get Dan some food on boobs. And if they're your boobs, all the better.
But before we get into that, while we're waiting, we'll look at the tentacle tie that Minotaur sent us.
Absolutely. And John sent us a suction tentacle on a dashboard. So it's a real suction play dildo tentacle that is stuck to a dashboard of people that were on their way to Monster Erotica.
Why aren't we presenting there?
Why aren't we presenting there? That would be fabulous. And then Little Red Wolf, who is a new person on our Discord. Welcome. Sent a comic book-like picture that's of a tentacle alien, and the girl is saying, "I'll do it for science." So, science.
And Enigma sent some hot girls that one of them just happened to have a tentacle cock.
So that was amazing. And then Trevor.
Yes.
Said that he was out of tentacle pictures.
Which is weird.
He has sent many over the last decade and a half. But Trevor said he was out of tentacles, but he sent werewolves, yum, vampire bitings, yum, and milking Hugh cows, which we just talked about a couple of episodes back, and cupcake boobs with stinging nettle. In front of it. She had not been whipped with the stinging nettle yet. So now that is some fucking chemical play.
Yeah, well, you do like the cupcake boobs. And
I love cupcake boobs, but man, I don't know about stinging nettle.
Hey, we do a class on chemical play.
I know, but man,
Research.
but have you ever seen the pictures of the stinging nettle? Because it like turns the skin like blistering red.
Take one for the team.
Maybe so. Yes, sir.
Be a part of the Erotic Awakening podcast community.
You can support us on Patreon and get early access to the ad-free version of the podcast, a free version of the audiobook, Polyamory Toolkit, free ebooks, discounts on monthly Zoom classes, member-only Discord access, and more.
Find all the goodies at patreon.com/erotic awakening today.
Help others find us. Did that have a question mark? Help others find us. Take a moment to support the podcast. Rate us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen.
Or just tell your friends.
Hey, you're doing that again. You got the improv. Everything's a question going on. Join the conversation with us and other listeners. Use
the links on the Erotic Awakening website for our growing Discord channel. It's okay. Nobody listens to this.
Feel free to reach out to us. We love interacting with you.
Contact us with questions, podcast comments, or just to say hi.
I think we've been doing this for 16 years. We are Dan and Dawn on Fetlife.
And Erotic Awakening on Instagram.
Or just email us at dananddawn@eroticawakening.com.
Bye, Dawn.
Bye, Dan.